fight scene process, or setting up your characters, setting up pins for your characters to knock down. Our first section is the point where most people start out when they're looking at starting a fight scene. Oh God, where do I start? And I get it. There's anytime you're writing a scene where you're not terribly familiar with how something works, it's kind of like, do I throw things at the wall and see which ones stick? Or do I spend, 6 months studying and still maybe not really know where to start? This is the process that I use when I'm working on a fight scene, and we'll go over the basics, as you can see right here. We're going to start out with the initial approach, basically what I do the first time I sit down, the necessary elements that I feel a fight scene needs to have, and the key takeaways from this presentation. So our first premise is zooming in from macro to micro. And when I say that, what I mean is that when I'm writing a scene, I try to look at it from as high an altitude as I possibly can so that I can see only the big things. Because it's just easier for me to make my way through having some framework in place already before I start trying to figure out the details. So, the first thing I look at is interrogating your subjects. Are you Columbo? You might be Columbo. So, first one, who? Your characters, obviously. Always start with your characters and with their connection to each other. This is a scene like any other, and it needs to serve the plot and the character arcs. You can kind of look at it as there's a writer tool in our toolbox called Pope in the Pool, where you might have something that requires a lot of description or a lot of dialogue. You want to have something going on in the background that gives your reader something interesting to look at while they're absorbing information. And you can look at a fight scene in the same way, where there's something exciting going on, but there's also a lot of description, and you have to be aware of how much you're putting in there that's important to moving forward, but also you really don't want it to be so description heavy that readers try to skim through to figure out what's going on. You want to have something in there to keep their interest. So your hooks there are how are the characters involved with each other, their relationship, their history, and the characters' larger arcs, such as if you're working a enemies to lovers trope, you really want to have every single scene, especially the fight scenes, moving something along in that area. So moving on to when, and this is on a very broad level. When is this historical, where we're looking at, say, rapiers or knives? Are we looking at far future, where they might have laser pistols or guns, or is that, like, do they have power armor? That's the sort of thing I'm thinking about there. And if it's present day, we have an easier idea of determining what tools they might have available. But if it's present day, it can also get fuzzy because people get into details where I've known lots of folks who are really into guns, who, for example, who read thrillers, and they will just get in there about the details. So I caution anyone writing something about real weapons to be really careful about details, because that just breaks it for some readers. And finally, where are they in space? Are they in a room where there's furniture, there's props, other characters in the room. And then also, I 100% suggest making a map, like a physical map that has a drawing of the space and then little character pieces. Like you can even just pick up a piece of rock and use that as your character so that you know where every single one of them is in space. It's a lot like writing a sex scene, honestly, where you need to know how many hands everybody has and make sure that magically appearing ones do not suddenly start groping things. So, yeah, absolutely keep an eye on the physical details of your setting. So, after you've interrogated your characters, you should interrogate yourself, or at least your writer brain. You need to know the outcome. Who wins? What arcs am I setting up? And how does this further the plot? Next, we're going to go over a little bit of blocking and dialogue. So, dialogue is very important when you're doing a lot of stationary character work. And fight scenes are character scenes. I will fight you to the death for that. But you can't have too much dialogue in it for a particular reason. And this is my personal approach to fight scenes because I have done so much sparring and martial arts in my lifetime. It's really hard to talk if you're paying attention to a fight that's going on that you're involved in. You're not going to be spinning off perfectly formatted sonnets, for example. At most, there's going to be some occasional yelling, and you can actually use bits of dialogue, somebody getting really into their discussion, to provide an appropriate distraction to advance the fight scene. Keep an eye on that. So, your big goal here is to keep it simple. Always keep it simple because the more complicated it is, the harder it is for your readers to keep track of what's going on. We want these scenes to engross your readers, not to push them out of the narrative. So, we go to key takeaways. Your most basic building blocks are your character arcs, relationships, and history, your plot progression that you want to happen during this fight scene, and the setting involved with the scene. So let's start the scene. I came up with some ideas if nobody has any opinions. Otherwise, I will just start with my bits. Does anyone have any opinions, or should I just start? Let's see here. All right. So I'm gonna just go for it then. All right. Let's see here. I am going to start with, let's see, we have characters. So our characters here are going to be a sister and a brother. Okay, so that gives us a relationship to work on. Then, I'm going to start with, let's see here, if I go back to my key elements. So I need to know who my characters are. I need to know when this is. So for when, I'm going to say, let's say present day, just because I don't feel like inventing weird names this morning. Present day. I'm going going to say that they are in a school. No, let's not go with that. Let's go with in a large house. Where they can, one of them is going to be chasing the other. So say the sister is chasing down brother to convince him to turn himself in to the authorities. Excellent. So we have the basic idea of what we're doing here. We have who, where, and when. I am gonna give these two a history of, let's see here, we're gonna say the sister is a cop, and the brother is a thief, just to make things easiest. And because this is my personal strong point, I'm gonna set this as a knife fight, probably knife versus empty hands. So one person who's unarmed and one person who has a knife. So the brother has a knife. And because I'm setting this in present day, going back to what I was saying earlier, let's say he has a steak knife. All right. Which is not the best fighting knife, but we're just going to start there. All right. So we have that. The next thing we want to do is set up some sort of map. I'm going to not draw it out because I don't have any drawing programs, but let's just say it is like 12 feet square with some boxes against one wall, 2 windows, and a locking door. And the locking door is going to be the most important things. So we're going to say room 12 feet square, boxes against one wall, 2 windows, and finally a locking door. All right, so my basic idea here is, I wrote this down earlier, she pins him down in this room. He tries to fight past her. They clash a couple times. And he injures her mildly before locking her in and escaping. So that gives us a basic through line of the scene. Real simple. Again, I'm strong proponent of a fight scene being only as long as it needs to be and no longer. The longer I spend deeply describing something, the more likely I am to lose someone. So let us start with a quick start here. Let's move this to a next page. There we go. So we can keep it up here. Okay. So I'm just going to call them brother and sister just so I don't have to give them names. Brother is running apparently I'm writing this in present tense, which is not how I write normally, so what the heck. Maybe I'm in Twitter mode. Anyway, brother running full tilt down the hall. I'm hot on his heels, cursing both him and my stocking-clad feet as they slip on the hardwood floor. And here, this is me defining my space a little bit. Right now, I am immediately saying my footing isn't strong because your stocking feet are going to slip more easily, especially on a hardwood floor. He looks back, face twisting with irritation. Nah. See, this is when we all get stuck on words. I am definitely someone who likes to craft sentences, and yeah. I will do my best to keep my internal editor to a reasonable level. His face twisting with annoyance. We'll start there. He looks back, his face twisting with annoyance. Could kill him for the lack of the lack of, see, here I am, there's the editor. Kill him for the lack of concern he's showing. He skids to a stop halfway down the hall and throws a door open. Crap. No, don't want to do that. Okay. Probably have him. Wow, I can spell. Probably have him if I catch him before he gets the window open. Hit the door frame and hands up. All right, so I've got them both in the room. So now we need to quick set the space. Looks like Dad has cleaned storage room out a bit. Nothing left other than the boxes Brother is climbing on. Struggling with the window latch. I can spell climbing. There we go. He has a horrible scowl on his face, twisting the scar along suddenly very aware of the mirroring scar my own face. There. So that gives us a little bit of their history, hopefully without it being so much that I'm slowing the pacing down. And I am about to attempt to make the pacing faster. Let's see here. Size. Nope, 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 nope. Come on. I plead. I'm not asking you to slit your wrists. I'm asking you to do what's right. And come with me. He sighs. And climbs. Stands up. And that's something I have to remember here. I know that he's on the boxes. He's standing on the boxes, the way I've described this. And obviously I can change this in revision, but if I want this version of the scene to make consistent sense, I have to be aware that he's on those boxes near the window. Okay, so he sighs and stands up. But you and I can't let you. He pulls a knife out of his cargo pants. And points the tip at me. All right. But he's already charging. All right, let's scroll this up a little. Already charging. Yep, I already said that. He's already charging. Off the boxes in one leap. The knife is suddenly horribly close. Away. And he's past me. On his way to the door. All right, so the action has started. At this point, I am not expecting there to be any dialogue until they're done with the physical part of the fight. If there's one thing I've learned from doing sparring and from like I've done lifesteal sparring, and that stuff is scary. You do not want your attention split, and you also get worn out really fast. Adrenaline makes your heart run fast. It makes it harder to think clearly enough to to speak coherently. So if you hope to get through this alive as a person, as a character, you don't want to be talking too much. Okay, so scroll down to the next page. All right. So the next thing I'm gonna say, oh, the cat's awake. You might see the cat soon, just so you know. All right. Leap onto his exposed back. Trying to grapple his knife arm. Oh, there you are, cat. Buddy. Nope. And he's an eel. Slipping away like he's boneless. And I have to let go before that knife touches skin. All right. So, and then I'm too close. Knife to think of anything but the sharp edge. He's close to repeating words. He's breathing heavy and something dark is in his eyes. All right. Yes, Beatrice. Here, cat break. This is Beatrice. She wants me to feed her. She always wants me to feed her. I think, but she's at least adorable, and possibly now that I have acknowledged you, you're gonna go away and let me write, okay? Okay. Something dark is in his eyes. And this is a point where I remember I said that talking during a fight is an opportunity for distraction. I'm going to use that here. Through the word, through his name. Clutch it to my body, hissing. Body check later. I'm on the floor, and the door is closing behind him. I hear the click Okay, so that is the beginnings of a scene. It needs a lot of work in terms of obviously massaging the language and figuring out more about my characters because I literally just made them up. But it gives me something to start with, and it is short, to the point, and clear. If I were going to revise this, I would probably be considering trying to figure out exactly why the brother is running, whether he has something that the sister needs to grab back from him, whether she's afraid he's going to do something like hurt other people or something like that. I need more details, but this is a good structure for me to start with. And then I'm going to go back to that looking at things by zooming in. I'm going to take in what I have and then slowly, like, it's almost like zooming in on. I've seen a bunch of videos of electronic art where there's a drawing and then you zoom in on a section and then that's a drawing and then you zoom in a section on the interior drawing and that's a different drawing. That's really what I try to be doing here. It gives me a good place to start, and I have all sorts of options to go from there. And obviously, of course, I can change anything I want to. It's my work. So if it's not working out, I will find a new way to go at it. Alrighty. So next thing is I have does anyone have any questions? I am recording here, so there is a slight delay on my end. So just give me a moment or two before I have any, yes, Beatrice, oh my goodness. Oh, there we go. If anyone has any questions, I am happy to answer them with a cat. Yes. I swear she gets into my arms without me even knowing, and now she's cranky because I'm not giving her what she wants. I have actually planned to get cat buttons, that you can, have them press that have words. And yeah, right now she would be pushing the mad button. Pretty given. Warfox asks, what martial arts have I done? I have been I've been doing Filipino martial arts, a couple different varieties for the past 12 years or so. I've also taken about a year of Aikido and Muay Thai. So I have a decent spread of bladed arts and empty hands concepts. I am working on building my skills in other arts, but Filipino martial arts is actually really useful, I think, for a writer to learn. I know I'm biased, obviously, but it has everything from staff and spear through long sword to short sword to two swords to knife to sword and knife to empty hands and then improvised weapons. So I feel like I draw from that experience in just about everything I do. Any other questions? If not, I will just jam out to the music. Any other questions? All right, folks. It's been great. I hope you enjoyed my my little thing here. I hope if you have any other questions, obviously get a hold of me. You can find me on Twitter at Amy Kaczynski. You can also find this presentation. You can find this presentation in a lightly edited format on YouTube which if you look for the channel Fix My Fight Scene, you will find it there. All right. Thanks a lot, folks. You have a good rest of your weekend, and I will see you again soon.